Welcome to This Week with Tammy Holland, powered by Brown Crouppen. I'm Tammy. My guest today is a renowned motivational speaker and a recording artist. Notably, he boasts not just a Grammy Award, but also a very strong connection to his faith, drawing inspiration from artists like Flame, Cross Movement, and Lecrae. He is a Christian rapper, maybe sometimes, but we know he has a very unique style. His name, Thi'sl, carries a very profound meaning, signifying, "This house I shall live." I wholeheartedly echo that sentiment. I was really eager to connect with him today, seeking not only some words of wisdom, but also advice on how to better connect with the young people in my life. His passion lies in working with teens and young adults, especially young men. Please join me in welcoming a great man to my show, Thi'sl Tyler. Hello.
Hey, I was like, okay, that's me, okay.
Well, you know, we were having our sidebar conversations about the music thing. So as I'm going through my whole spiel and introducing you, I'm like, well, we got to talk about this music thing.
We got to talk about it.
Yeah. Welcome. I'm happy to see you. And I have to say, I hate to lead off with a conversation about how you look. Right?
You can lead wherever you want to.
But I want to tell you that you look fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
You are so welcome. You are half the man that I knew 10 years ago, and I'm most inspired by that.
I just saw a picture. It probably was last week from when we did the thing out in Canfield when the young lady Jamila passed. And I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, like we were standing side by side.
That's right.
Yeah, was like, I was way bigger.
That's right.
Yeah,
we connected, just for our friends that are listening. Thi'sl and I connected first. This was our very first meeting over the death of a young girl in Ferguson.
Yes.
She was in her room, being a girl. I think she was doing her homework at the time, and a bullet came through her window and killed her. And Thi'sl picked up the mantle and really brought great attention to the fact that, number one, that was an absolute horrible situation, a terrible tragedy, but bringing attention to the fact that gun violence and the usage of guns in that particular community was something that was terrible and needed to be addressed.
Yes.
And that's how we met. I'm like, well, I'm going to go follow Thi'sl. Okay. I'm going to go follow Thi'sl, and I'm going to protest, and I'm going to use my voice too.
And you did. And you stepped right in. I remember how that was our first encounter, but it was so impressive to me because for the people from St. Louis that know, you're a big deal. So,
I don't know about that, but you're very kind.
You're a big deal.
Thank you.
So it's like Tammy Holland. So normally people act weird. So people are weird, and people get in positions and they get in space, and sometimes people let those things make them. It dictates how they deal with other people. So you didn't know nothing about me. All you knew was we had a mutual person in the middle, which is Abe.
Yes.
Abe said, I told Abe what I wanted to do. He said, I'm going to reach out to Tammy. I'm going to see what Tammy say. And when he said it, I'm going to be honest, I was like, see what she going to say. And he came right back like, Tammy down. What we doing? What day we need to be there?
Yeah.
And so it was, I think at that point, I started to begin to feel the same way about you as you did with me, because I was like, oh, that's so dope. That she is willing to use her platform and use the space that she has to bring awareness to something like this that's going on in our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was dope.
How does the song go? If I can help somebody, then my living is not in vain. Okay.
That's it.
That's how I live my life.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I like to ask everybody who comes and spends time with me. I like to ask everybody the exact same question, starting off. Who are you? Who is Thi'sl Tyler?
Man, I think you just nailed it with the song riff.
If I can help somebody.
Yeah, that's my life. My life has been that so long. That's all I am. That's what I do. It's so crazy when you mentioned the Canfield situation. it took my brain back real fast. And I was like, I've been doing this stuff for a long time.
For a long time.
And but it's always been genuine. So growing up, I was always a person that was in need.
Growing up in Mississippi or in St. Louis?
In St. Louis. So I told you about that off the camera about Mississippi.
All right.
So you want me to, I'm going to go there so I can tell you what I was going to say.
Okay, come on, give me the whole rundown.
So I'm going to share something, and every time I share it and people don't know it, they be like, no way. Okay. So I was born on a plantation.
All right.
Like Rosewood.
Really?
Yes.
In Mississippi.
So I was born in a place called Minna City, Mississippi, on a plantation called Belle Chase.
Wow.
My family, they were, like most people, they were descendants of slaves, but generations down the line, but though, like every generation, someone stayed to be sharecroppers. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was born in 1977, by the time I was born, my family they were the descendants of that. My great-grandmother was still there. My grandmother's mother and her father was still there.
Wow.
On the same plantation.
Wow.
But in 77, it still looked like the row of tin and wood houses, cotton fields, far as you could see them, the white church at the end.
Really
the big white house.
Really?
When I used to go down there until the last of my family moved from down there when I was like 10 years old.
Really?
So every summer I would go back to a plantation to see my great-grandmother and grandfather, and I was playing in cotton fields and running up and down a dirt road in the middle of Mississippi.
Well, that definitely had, I'm sure, a big part in shaping who you were.
It's crazy. Some things I was just blind to. Because it never registered in my mind, even though you go to school.
Because it was just home.
Yeah, it was just home. So it was just like, we going to, like me and my cousins from her, we would look forward. We going to Belle Chase. Like they would drop us off the whole summer.
Belle Chase.
Yeah, we would get dropped off. And then somebody come back and get us at the end of the summer.
Wow.
So it wasn't until I was older that I saw the effect. I saw the way it shaped me. And one of the good ways that it shaped me actually in a good way because of how we got from there. My Uncle James, his name was James Billingsley. So in the late 60s, my Uncle James, he left Belle Chase, came to St. Louis, started working at General Motors, black man, in the 60s, early 70s. He worked, he saved money. He bought a 6-family flat apartment building on the west side called the Montana in like mid-70s. Bought a 6-family flat apartment building. He was living in Moline Acres in the late 70s. He was balling. And then he came back to Mississippi and literally got all of us like American Gangster.
Wow.
Like, we going to St. Louis.
Uncle James was amazing.
Oh, yeah. So he piled the car up, brought us to St. Louis, and he bought the Montana. All of our family lived in the building. And then he started a construction company because all of my family knew how to work the heavy machinery from the plantation. Wow. And so that affected, that's the part of it that I took from it. I saw my uncle and I was like, that's what I want to be that. That's what I want to be like that.
Now, interestingly enough, because I've read your story, you came from such an interesting background, but yet the streets became attractive to you.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
So when we moved to St. Louis, late 70s, then you go into the 80s. So by the time we were in the era when gangs and drugs first happened. So I remember growing up and it's like 80 something and I'm a young, you young kid, 87, I was 10. But I remember like 87, 88 and you just running around freely, everybody playing.
Good days.
Yeah, everybody playing and it's all cool.
Staying out to the street lights.
To the street lights.
There
and
you go.
like, oh, it's cool, it's fun.
Yeah.
Then I remember you had the neighborhood gangs always, but it was like, oh, you see them, you might fight, or this person might fight that person. But then I remember 90s, like the early 90s. So when the early 90s came, everything came at one time, drugs and gangs. And so there's one part that stuck in my head, particularly I had this homeboy, his name was Lamont, he was from the Cabinet Courts. Mm-hmm. And so he used to always, the
Lamont from the Cabinet Courts. It sounds like a story.
He was different.
Yeah.
He was different. He was different. This is my dog, though. He was so cool. And he came to school one day. He had on this like flannel shirt. It was buttoned up to the top. All the other buttons was undone. He had some low shades on. I didn't even know what they were at that point. And he's standing up against the wall. We 6th grade.
You thought he was looking so fly.
I thought he was looking silly, to be honest. So I'm like, bro, what do you got on?
Yeah.
He was like, I'm a Crip. Well, he's like, you a what? He's like, go home and watch Colors and come back to school Monday. I was like, okay, what? So me and my cousin, we go find this movie. We watch it. I'm like, oh, I'm a Crip too. So I come back to school.
Yeah.
And at that same point, it was crazy because drugs came. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing people that I loved, you start seeing their life deteriorate. And then you start seeing the neighborhood deteriorate. And then, so it went from that point to my dad, my dad wasn't around. My mom, she had her issues at that point in life.
And where was Uncle James?
Uncle James is so wow. The burden of taking care of everybody wore him down.
I can imagine that.
Because he took care of everybody.
I can imagine
that.
And
it wore him down over the years.
I can imagine that.
And so now drugs came in and it's affecting so many people that all of us, it was a bunch of kids. I got
What'd you say when you say a bunch of kids?
Right now, I think realistically, I got 96 cousins.
Wow.
But all of us know each other.
Do you know, Thi'sl, that I only have one first cousin?
Oh no, all of my cousins. When we went to school growing up, elementary school.
It was a whole school.
It was a gang. We had our own gang.
Oh my goodness!
It would be 10 of us at elementary. It'd be 10 of us at middle school. It'd be 10 of us at high school.
I love it.
So it was always a bunch of my cousins. They don't have friends. They are their only friends. They don't do friends. There's so many of them. They all just always hung together. And so.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's always beautiful. Family events, and my family, the type of family, they gonna get together, the music gonna come on, and they dancing. I'm talking about dancing where the people falling into people's arms, they throwing people in the air. My cousins dragging each other across the floor they have a ball. And so it's real, it's a real family environment. You got your issues with any family, but one thing I've always had growing up, it was always all my cousins right there. I know, but with it being so many of us and drugs affecting everybody, it put us in a space, and especially me, when you got to choose between what am I going to eat today as a 12-year-old? It's what am I going to eat? Am I going to eat? Or am I going to go in the house and not eat nothing? I'm going outside.
Yes.
So I'm going to go outside. So drugs, the streets, it didn't draw me out because I was like, oh my gosh, this look amazing out there.
It was like a necessity for you.
It was a necessity. And it became a family aspect too. Because once gangs started, whether you want to be or not, if you from a certain neighborhood in that era, it's you from over there.
Yes.
So you gonna figure out what you're gonna do. Am I gonna take my chances of I'm walking to school and these dudes want to do something to me? They want to fight me. It's just me because I'm I ain't with that. Don't nobody care about. They didn't care about that back then. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that aspect of it, I was cool with. It was these my brothers. These my brothers. We all grew up together. And so whatever they own, I'm on, because if I'm not, I am anyway. And so the streets didn't pull me out because I felt a need for something. It was necessity of life. Anywhere, it's like the jungle.
Yeah.
You gonna run with the pack to survive.
Yeah. The survival of the fittest, right? So how did you flip the script? So how did music become a part of your life? I have to say, first of all, that you are the only Christian rapper that I've ever known in my life.
That's crazy. But before I knew me, I ain't know none either. So I didn't know none until I met some dudes. But so music, I started doing music way before I was Christian. I started doing music in a group home. when I was 14, the state took us from my mother. And so when the state took us from my mother, I was sent to a group home about 2-3 hours away from her. It's Park Hills, Missouri now, but it was Flat River, Missouri then. So when I was in this group home, I had these different periods of my life where I always tell people it's like my origin story, like the villain in the superhero movies, all the villains and the superheroes though, they all got like, it's a thing, it's called an origin story. So for me, I got different points in my life that were significant, but being in a group home, that was my life. Origin story. It was the first time.
Was somebody in there rapping or somebody was singing, or is that how you escaped?
So when I went, I was so hurt for so many reasons. I had all of this different stuff bottled up in me and trying to come out. And I used to just walk around rapping songs, but other people's songs. And one of my house, the caseworkers that stayed with us, one day she came in, she heard me rapping a song, and she was like, who? She said, sing. And she said, whose song are you singing? And I don't even remember who it was, but I was like, I said the name to her, and she was like, have you ever thought about writing your own songs?
Oh, that was beautiful.
And I was like, no, I haven't. And so I went to the room that night, and I was just sitting there like, man, what am I going to rap about? And I was like, man, I'm just about to say everything I feel.
Yes.
And I sat there and I wrote, and I said everything I was feeling. And that was the first time I saw what music or releasing does to a person, because I said stuff that I couldn't say out loud. And I'm talking about, I wrote it. And when I got done, I was just remember feeling like, man, that felt good.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning. It saved me.
It was like therapy for you.
Yeah, it became my therapy for years.
Yeah.
I just always would go into a booth and I would say whatever I felt. And so music, it was a part of my life in that aspect way before I knew anything about being Christian. I used to go around and rap and battle against different people. But my life was so, when me and you were talking off camera, you said, you were talking about, why am I loving the way that I am, paraphrasing, or the way that I'm being kind?
Yes, because you're a very kind person.
Yeah, and so somebody else recently said that to me, Alice Prince, AP.
Hey, Dr. Prince.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Prince.
So Dr. Prince was like, Thi'sl, you are so loving. And I told her, I said, do you want to know what's crazy? She said, what? I said, the love that you see in me and that you see me give to other people, it wasn't shaped in me through love. It was shaped in me through pain. Like my whole life, I've lived in a space like where a lot of times I was just hurt and hurt without remedy, like with nobody. So when I'm in a group home, when I say my origin story, I got in trouble there because this dude was bothering me. He was tripping. And I choked him out, long story short. But he was bothering me. He had been bothering me a little bit. Later on, I saw we was both.
You're 14, 15?
I'm 14.
You're 14.
So later on, I find out we both frustrated. I'm thinking about it later. I'm like, man, he was frustrated like me.
Of course.
I was there Christmas. Nobody called me. Nobody come see me.
Yeah.
I'm mad. I'm hurt.
Yeah.
He the same way. Me and him sat there mad and hurt together. You know, so by the time I do that, they take me. When that happened, though, I'm 14. I'm 180 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall. They know my background. I'm an inner city 14. I was grown. When they took me there, I was staying with my girlfriend. Like I wasn't even staying at home. Like I was living outside when they took me to there. And so they took me, when I got in trouble, put me in this isolation room. It's like an 8x10 concrete.
That's scary.
It's like an 8x10 metal walls.
Like you're a criminal.
Yeah. So it's metal walls, a wood door, no way out. And they just lock you in there. And so when they locked me in there, I was just like, I'm about to die.
Oh, Thi'sl, that's very devastating.
Yeah, and so that was the day though that it changed me. And when I came out of there, I was different.
Very much so.
Yeah, and so from that point, when I found music, every time I was hurt, it was the place I ran to. It was like I ran to music. I'm like, I could say this. Now I could say this. I could say how I feel, and I won't get in trouble.
So you spent some years dabbling in secular rap. How did you make the transformation from secular music to Christian music?
Man, out of the mouth flows the abundance of the heart. My heart changed. So when my heart changed, everything about me changed. My music changed. The way I treated people changed. Even when I was
Say that one more time for me.
out of the mouth flows the abundance of the heart.
Yes.
Yeah, my heart changed.
Yes.
When my heart changed, everything changed with it. And so at first, I didn't even want to do music. I was just, so this was, there was a point that I had an epiphany. So for the people that know Bible, you talk about Paul on the road to Damascus.
Yes.
He got knocked off his beast. He going to kill people. And God knock him off the horse. He go blind and he unblind him. And Paul like, oh, I'm on the right side now.
Yes.
So I had one of those moments. I was probably like 20, 21. I was falsely accused of a crime. My cousin had just got killed. He was my best friend. I was arrested for the crime that I was falsely accused for. And while I was in the jail cell, I just had this moment with God. And it just brought me to a place of repentance. But the thing that rocked me the most was...
What was it?
That my granny had always told me about God. It's like, God love you. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that even mean? Right. God love me, whatever. All right, cool. All right, granny, pray for me,
Right.
And so when I had this moment, I'm going to run you through quick. Took from my mom, put in the group home. 14 was probably the hardest year of my life till I got grown, older. So at 14, I got took from my mom and put into state custody. One of my best friends that I looked up to, his name was Johnny. He got killed he got killed. He was like the big brother I never had. He looked out for me. He got killed. They sent me to live with my daddy. I went to live with my daddy. And I went to stay with him. I thought he was going to...
Where was your dad?
In Detroit.
Okay.
I thought he was going to save me. I went to stay with him. I got in trouble up there. My daddy looked me in the eyes, told me, you can never come back to my house again as long as you live. Put me on a Greyhound, send me back to St. Louis. So all of these things, everywhere that I went, everywhere that I turned in life, all I saw was people rejected me, throwing me away. The school system, I got kicked out of all St. Louis public schools. They like, we don't care where you go. You just can't go here. So everywhere I went, people threw me away. So when I found myself in the space, like I'm in this jail cell, I didn't do this. I've done plenty of things in life. So I'm like, well, it's about fair, And at that moment, I had a coming to God moment where I just felt the Lord speak to me like, you pray, I'm gonna get you out. And I got out of there. I walked out free, clean. But the thing that rocked me the most...
Let me give you an amen on that one.
Yes.
Okay.
The thing that rocked me the most, though, wasn't the act of what that had just happened.
What was it then?
What rocked me the most was my granny told me my whole life, God know everything you do. God sees everything you do. God hears everything you say. I heard that my whole life as a child. I sat there and I said, if God knows everything about me, everything I've ever done, the things I've never told people, the things I've never said out loud, the things people know about me that are not good things, but instead of pushing me away, like everybody else did, everybody else threw me away. Instead of throwing me away, instead of pushing me away, God say, nah, come on, I want you. It rocked my life.
Oh, Thi'sl.
That was it for me.
Oh, Thi'sl.
I was convinced.
That is an amazing story. Yeah. And I didn't know all of those things about you, right? Yeah. I think that you are a walking miracle. The fact that you are alive right now. Yeah. I mean, my goodness. Yeah. Like how do you I don't even know how some people can go on. But you did that. Yeah. You are more than a conqueror.
And if I could be completely honest,
please.
It hurt.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
Yeah, it hurt a lot. Even now, like when people say stuff like the good people finish last, I think that's a bad statement.
Why do you say that?
Because I don't think good people finish last, but I think good people endure a lot of pain.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
I'm speaking from a personal perspective because
like-
I know I'm a great person.
When I saw you
Yeah.
and the things that you started to go through, this is at the point when it wasn't like, oh, Tammy, she's nice and cool. This is when it's like, oh my gosh, I love Tammy. Like I think everybody loves Tammy, right?
you're
I'm
so
like,
sweet.
we love Tammy. So
Not everybody.
when you, they were
Not everybody.
yeah,
You said they're weird. You're right. Anybody who doesn't
Don't like
me,
Tammy,
you are
you're
weird.
Yeah.
Or if you're from St. Louis, you word.
You're word. And so
Right.
when you see those things, one thing that life has taught
Thi'sl.
me, you're welcome. One thing that life has taught me that has helped me is that I understand that pain is a part of the process. So much stuff happened to me so young that I had to have an understanding about life and pain. Because if you don't, you will begin to think that, one, I'm being unfairly punished. Like, bad things don't happen to us because we're being punished.
It feels like that
it
sometimes.
feels like it.
It really does.
So it doesn't happen because, like, oh, you're being punished for something you done. We live in a world that is, it's hard to explain, but there are simple words for it. It's like the perfect storm. Like, we live in a world where everything that happens is tied into another thing. And God shows us so much life through other creation. When you look at a plant, it starts from a seed. That plant will grow straight up out of the ground as little buds. It get bigger, bigger. It bloom. It's so beautiful. You're like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And then if you, even some plants, you keep taking care of it. And what does it start to do eventually? It starts to die. And you're like, oh my gosh, the plant is dying. What's wrong? That's what, and that plant in return gives up seed for another plant to grow and another thing to grow. When you look, you see the bird flies through the sky. The little worm is on the ground, minding his own business. He like just worming around, being a worm. Here comes a bird. He's just being a bird. The worm did not wake up that day and was like, you know what? I'm going to come up out this dirt and go crawl around, and the bird's going to swoop down and he's going to eat me.
Right.
But here comes the bird. He takes the worm. He feeds babies. The other babies go. They produce things. It interacts with this. It goes to that. When you look at things, I just like nature. I'm fascinated by it.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah. So it's just things are, seasons happen, life happens, seasons come and they go. One thing that has been constant for me though is learning to understand. One, I'm not in control. When I gave up control, it helps different. It's still painful, but I'm not in control. The other thing is there's something about being in a fight.
What do you mean by that?
Like, it's exhilarating. Like, as much as it hurts sometimes, when you get a little bit of, you're like, woo!
Yeah, I just had that. I just had that in the car. I had road rage in the car.
Yeah, it's a,
And I was telling my producer Jason, I'm like, I don't even know what just came over me.
Yeah.
But it felt so good
it's a
to
whole,
lay on my horn and blow at that man like I did. And I'm in St. Louis, and you know you shouldn't be acting like that with people. Right?
But it's a whole,
Yes, I
it's a
understand.
whole life.
Yes.
It's the whole thing.
Yes.
So as sad as it was for me to be, all of the stuff that happened to me as a young child, and I could go on and on and on. When you think about me laying in that group home, right? Fast forward, I got older, had never had a job in my life. I was like, I need to get a job. Like, let me find something to do. What do I do? I'm like, I don't know. I was straight out the street. I'm like, I don't know what I do. My friend was like, you want to come work at this group home with kids? I'm like, yeah. I still wouldn't put two and two together. I'm like, okay. This is when I was shaping into being Thi'sl, the adult. I go work at this group home. One of the first days that I'm there, the staff like, there's this kid on the way. He's bad. He's getting in trouble everywhere. They're sending him here straight from DYS. He's going to be shackled and blah, blah, blah. And so everybody like, oh, they scared, the staff.
Right.
Because they like, this kid, he's coming. So I'm like, okay. It sound like one of my little cousins or me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He get there. Nobody wants to deal with him. He goes in his room. They bring him in shackled. His hands are shackled. His feet are shackled. He walk in like this. He's about 16. He walk in. The dude, I remember it vividly. He gets on the couch on his knees. They unshackle his feet, they unshackle his hands, they let him go and tell him to go in the room. When I see his face, it's so familiar.
Because you saw yourself in that boy.
Because I saw myself in him. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, I know how he feels.
Yes.
So he goes to the room, he sits down on the bed, and he's just sitting there. And this is the kid that everybody's afraid of. I think he had like shot somebody or something. It was something wild he had did to get him there. Mm-hmm. And I walked to the door, and he just looked up at me so angry, but I didn't care. And he looked up, and I said, "You all right?" And he just broke down crying.
Yes. Oh, this.
And at that very moment, it literally turned on inside of me and said,
this is what I need to do with myself.
I was like, this what I do right here.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
I consider you one of the blessed ones because so many people spend so many wheels and spend so much time trying to find their way in life. Yeah. And you were just in tune. Yeah. And you knew.
When I was like 11, 12, 13 years old and going through everything, and me and my cousin, her name's Tanya, we would sit together all the time and talk. When I was that young, I used to tell her, when I get grown, I'm gonna help kids like us.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you are. Flight 100.
Flight 100.
Flight 100.
Yeah.
Tell me about Flight 100.
So Flight 100 is a youth mentoring foundation. To quote the great late Tupac, when he was talking about rap music,
come on.
Tupac said one time, he said, "I peeped the weakness in the rap game and sold it." And I remember being a rapper, artist, and thinking about that, like, man. And I was like, he did. Tupac, he found his lane. He like, I'm gangster, but I'm gonna talk to women.
Yes.
That's why y'all advocate for him. Because he had a whole, he was like, I'm gonna talk gangster, but I'm gonna talk to women.
Dear mama.
He on there like, how
Dear
do
mama.
you do? Yeah. Wasn't nobody talking about how do you want it.
Brenda, I'm still Brenda. I hope you and the baby, everybody all right.
I listened to Brenda's Got a Baby on the way over.
Yeah.
True story.
Really?
Yes. And so you got Tupac. He said that, so all of these spaces that I went into in nonprofit world, once I began to go into these spaces, I would notice a couple of things. One, the first thing I would notice was a lot of times the money don't get to where it need to get to. So the money don't make it there. You know, I'm non-political. I don't care about this.
I know.
Yeah,
tell the truth, shame the devil,
so
right?
So the money don't get there.
Yes.
It'll be a person on the same side of town that has a realistic need, that need the money that's available.
Yeah.
But the person with the relationship will get the money and then try to create what that person is already doing. Instead of saying, oh, no, man, they do that down the block. We don't even do that. Take the money to them. It's a competition for some, not all. So that was one thing I saw. I said, the money don't make it where it's supposed to go to. I've always been a person that lived in the space to think about problems from a futuristic point of view. Once you get into the middle of a fight, you don't got time to come up with a strategy. It's you better just be trying to win.
Right.
So right now we are in the midst of a fight for our sons, for our culture, for our ability to go back outside till the street lights come on and just linger and hang around. We are in this fight, and I sat back and I watched everybody point and blame and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I looked at all of the programs that were being created. Amazing programs, a lot of them. I know a lot of good people doing a lot of good work in St. Louis. But most of the programs that you look at, they start at 18 to 24 for boys.
Is that so?
Yeah, they start at 18 to 24 for boys. They're 18 and up for women. But if you look at the people that need the most help in our community right now, they're teenage boys, 10 to 17. There are no programs that really target their holistic well-being. First of all, when you talk about young black boys, let's just be realistic. They are the most feared group of people in the world. Like when you see 10 or 12 young black boys come down the street, everybody moving. And they getting out the way. But it's not because they are terrorists or because they are just destructive. It's one, because they're left to figure out life on their own. So nobody is coming back to say, all right, I said, we're looking at them do things, but we're not doing nothing to help them. And so I sat and I was on this tour with this guy for like 10 years. We would go to colleges. He would speak and I would perform. And one day I asked him, I said, why do you come to colleges? Because we would go and they'd be packed out. It'd be a bunch of students and it'd be a dope time. He'd tell the same story every time. I traveled with him 8 years, probably 20 times a year, just with him, not even the other stuff I was doing. I'm like, why do you come here? He said, college was the point that my life fell apart.
Interesting.
He said, I was away from my family for the first time. Everything I believed was challenged. I found myself in a space that I needed guidance and I didn't know what to do. He said, so I'm sure there are a lot of them here just like that, like me. And so even back then when I was doing music, music saved my life. I know God used it as a stepping stone, a tool to get me where I was supposed to be. I knew way back then I wasn't a lifetime artist.
Interesting.
I knew that. I always knew what I was going to be doing.
Once a creative, always a creative.
But I knew I was headed here.
I understand.
And so when I had that conversation, I began to shape this idea in my head years ago. And so Flight 100 is targeted towards teenage boys, 10 to 17. That's our main target, 10 to 17. Because when you think about solving problems, when you think about problems and fixing problems, you got to think future. So if 5 years from now, we have a lifelong work, first of all, in our community. I'm committed to it the rest of my days, but it's a lifelong work. When you think about fixing problems, you got to think time.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about over the next 5, 10 years, what can we do to fix the problems that we have in the community right now? Cars being stolen, teenage pregnancies, violence, these things. What can we do to fix these things? Okay, cool. I need to start working with these 10-year-olds.
There you go.
Because 5 years from now, guess what? They're going to be 15.
That's right.
The 12-year-olds, 5 years from now, they're going to be 17. We need to start working with them, getting the thought into their mind, helping them shape a worldview, helping them find a place of hope in their own life. Especially one of the main things for young black boys is to keep them from having babies. Like somebody else said, we're going to be like, why would you? No, for real. Because you put yourself behind.
Yeah.
You got to work harder. You
Yes.
got to create. And so when I saw these different things and I saw the need, I said, this was made for me. This is my lane. Because there's no way everybody missed this point. And I'm steady festering on it and thinking through. And so I'm just taking all of my years of experience, all of my curriculum building, all of my speaking, everything that I can, and piling it in. But also bringing real awareness. I see people so many times, we yell, what can we do? What's wrong? It's so bad. It's so bad. So first of all, we got to think about it from modern times. Everything is sensationalized.
Yes.
Everything is sensationalized. When you look at statistics, the reality is these kids are not doing more crimes than we were when we were kids. When in the 90s, we had 250, 260, 270 murders. We talking now, we got 150, 160. It's still a lot, but there's a decrease in crime. What's increasing is the amount of hopelessness. These kids don't have an idea of what the future looks like.
So what do you do with them when they come to you, these boys, and where do they come from?
All over the place.
Over St. Louis.
I go after the people. I want the people that the shackled hand and feet. I want the young boys that come to school every day, and the teacher, when they see them, they like, oh my God, how can I? Those are the kids that I'm going after. Those are the kids that I want. Because when you get them in a space that you allow them to feel safe,
yes,
they begin to talk.
Yes.
They begin to open up. And that's even with grown men. I was mentoring from 17 to 19. I mentored like 180 men coming home from prison.
Wow.
Federal prison, state prison. So I was working with a program. We mentored them. I'm talking about help them find jobs, get them acclimated back in the culture, talk to them about real things.
That's so dope.
Yeah, and so these men would come in and they would, I had one guy, man, I loved him so much. And he had been in prison 27 years. He went on a 1-year charge. And while he was in prison, he got all the rest of his 26 years while he was in prison. So he came home, man. When you saw him, he was just as hard as he looked. I'm talking about white dude, bald head, tattoos. When you see him, you like,
right.
Most people gonna be like, oh
intimidated.
My gosh, yeah,
right.
So when I'm talking to him in the class, we in this classroom, we talking, and he just steady staring at me.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever somebody stirred me, it's two things you could do. It either can get awkward or you could begin to pull. I began to talk to him without talking to him.
And I know that you do.
Yeah, so I start talking to him like without saying. So I'm like, I'm talking at him like, and when we get done, he came up to me and he said, man, that stuff you were saying about your daddy, he said, I still feel it to this day.
Wow.
This a grown man. He just did 27 years in prison. And I said, man, how you doing? He just broke down and hugged me and cried on my shoulder. And that became my buddy. Like, me and him was like,
that's
like
amazing.
This.
Isn't that wild how you can diffuse a situation like that with a hug? Yesterday, I had to go to see about my health, and I was over at BJC in the emergency room. And I don't know if you've ever been to the emergency room at BJC. Okay, it's kind of wild over there.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful hospital. I'm not dogging, I'm not saying, but we have to meet people where they are, and there are people coming from all over the place with all different kinds of things. Well, there was a girl, Thi'sl, who was there, and she was so mad. Something didn't happen. She felt like there was an injustice, and she was cussing everybody out. I'm sick, Thi'sl. I am feeling awful. But I'm seeing this sister, and the cops are coming at her. I told the lady, the nurse who was working with me, I said, hurry up. I said, I got to get out here to this girl. So I go outside. I'd go through the security. I go outside to the girl, and I said to her, sis, please, let me speak for you. How can I help you?
Yes.
And then I said to her, can I hug you? And she said, I love St. Louis. Yeah, you can hug me.
Yeah,
you can hug me.
I guess so.
And I just held her. I pulled her into me, Thi'sl, and I just held her. And it calmed her down for a minute. She needed something. She was mad because her friend had a blunt wrapper, and they wouldn't let her get the blunt wrapper. Her friend wouldn't let her get the blunt wrap. She was mad, and I didn't know. I just knew. I said, "Please, can you all help her get her things?" And when the cops came and handed her that paper, I said, "Girl, dang." But all right, we all got a moment.
We all got a moment.
But everybody needs to feel validated. Is what I hear you saying, and I appreciate that. It is so true.
And the thing is too, you have to look behind what a person need. Why do they need it?
Yeah.
So she was that upset. It seemed like she was that upset over the blunt wrapper.
It was more than the blunt wrapper.
It was more than that. She was looking for that to calm her down.
Right. I recognize that.
And you stepped in and helped with that.
I recognize that.
Yeah. I love you for that. That's why everybody loves Tammy.
Oh, you're so sweet. I was scared. Look, in my St. Louis voice, I was scared because I'm like, is she going to come out of a bag on me? Because I felt like she could have just stole me straight in the face.
You have to put yourself in that space sometimes.
Yes.
Though, because it can save somebody's life.
Amen.
You don't know how that would have escalated. I
felt like she was going to jail.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to see her go to jail.
I have a thing I live by and I do.
What
that
is
I try
it?
to do as much as I can.
What?
With people. I learned it through reading books and therapy. In situations, I ask a question. What do you need from me? Like, what do you need from me right now? You need me to shut up? You need me to talk? You need to hug? You need this? And one of the reasons that I know, I saw how much it helped me. Like when you're in a space, and do you know how many people could say their relationship? They could fix things with their children, a workspace. Most places, when we are confronted with aggression, we respond with aggression.
Right.
With our pride. It's our pride. Like, you ain't talk to me crazy.
Right.
It's like, no, what do you need from me right now? You'll be surprised though. Most people I ask the question, even with my children, when you ask the question, it's like, I don't know. Because we don't even know what we need all the time. But it gives people a time to reset and think about it. And say I firmly believe, it's a God thing that I feel the need to help people and serve.
And I'm so glad that you do.
But I just believe if we all walk out the house every day with the conscious thought in our mind of what can I do on my part to make this day be a better day for people, my neighborhood, my community. What do you need from me? How can I serve you? We'll be a lot different.
If I can help somebody.
This our new theme song.
Then my living is not in vain.
It's not in vain.
Beginning of the day, the ending of the day. Tell us how we can learn more about Flight 100. I like to say, because I'm hunted. How can we learn more about it?
So you can go to Instagram is Flight, the number 1, and then 100. The website is flight100foundation.com. It's Flight spelled the regular way, 100 like 100 foundation.org. I'm sorry, .org. And other than that, those are the two main ways. One of the we got a big thing coming up, Giving Tuesday.
Oh yes, that's
it's
right.
November 28th.
That's right.
It's St. the Louis. It's the biggest national day for nonprofits to receive donations. One of the spaces that we're in right now is I have a personal, oh my gosh, this is going to make me so uncomfortable saying this. I have a personal 20-year great track record. I don't like to talk about myself. My track record.
Tell me.
Yeah, for 20 years is, with doing this work, is intact. People trust me.
Yes.
They believe me. They've seen me do it with my own for years.
Yes.
But because we're a new foundation going into corporations and grant money, we're not going to qualify for that stuff till next year. So what we need, we don't need people to give a lot of money. We just need a lot of people to give. And so that's what we're asking, just as many people that can give whatever you can give on Giving Tuesday, Flight 100. You can find the links on our page. You can find it on social media. Givebutter.com, Flight 100. You'll see the Giving Tuesday campaign. We just need people to give because we want to be able to be in a position to, this is just not one of those things where we're going to go out and talk to kids or I'm going to go mentor them. We are creating an entire wraparound service for them.
That's beautiful.
We're not just going to talk to you and send you home hungry. We're not going to just talk to you and send you back with raggedy shoes where you need clothes. We want to be able to literally pull kids in, wrap our arms around them, and not just sit, but walk. This is a walk with me program where we are going to walk with kids. If we meet them in kindergarten, my goal is to walk with them to high school.
Amen.
If we meet them in middle school, my goal is to walk with them through college.
Beautiful.
Wherever we meet them at, we plan on walking with them to the end of their life. Because the motto behind Flight 100 is, it comes from 1 can create 10 can send 100 to flight, 100 can send 1,000, 1,000 can send 10,000, 10,000, 100,000, 100,000, a million.
Understood.
Yeah, so that's the goal. Not just to talk to them and do something for them, but to begin to pull these young men in and have them begin to create other young men. My life makes so much sense to me right now. I told people at the launch party, I said, I'm the one that God sent to send a million.
All right.
That's my mission.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm so thankful to have had this opportunity.
I
feel
so
like
much.
with you, I love you too. I feel like I could go on and I could talk to you forever, but I'm going to make you laugh. I'm a talker, right?
Yeah.
This is the very first podcast. I think I probably said 6 things.
So look.
I'm serious. I'm like, it's the Thi'sl show here. Listen.
But that's a great interviewer.
I knew that you would come and you would drop some pearls. This is my thing. Since my cancer diagnosis, I believe in living my life on purpose. Yes. I also believe that, we have to extend ourselves, letting our light shine. And then if you have a platform, okay? Yes. If you have a platform, use it for good. Yes. I love the meaning behind your name. And when I was reading about you, I thought about myself. Yeah. And I was never courageous enough to go with my acronym and to say, it's too many words, but I used to pray it and I felt like if I prayed it and I said it out loud, it wouldn't come true. Yeah. But I started my career years ago and I would say this, it was my every day, every night prayer. I want the world to know my name for good and not for evil, that my gifts and talents would be used to help somebody. I have lived my whole career with that mantra, and it made me think about your mantra and your name. It's so important, and I was so happy to have that connection with you in that way.
Oh, when you just said yours, I'm like, okay.
But tell us this again.
Yeah.
Explain it. Say it again.
So it was my thing, this house I shall live. It was my thing to say, like, God is with me. It was like, this is ours.
Yes.
And that's been my life. I got a friend, like, I talk about different things with different people.
Yes.
Me and my friend was talking yesterday, and I told him, I said, bro, I respect everybody's opinion and believe what they believe.
Yes.
You could think how you want to think, what you want to about God, Jesus, whatever you want to believe. I said, but for me, that's all I've ever had.
There you go.
So in my whole life, the thing that's been the only thing that has made my life make sense and that keeps a smile on my face and keeps me thriving to help other people, because most people have been through the stuff I've been through. They turn to monsters. The only thing that's helped me continue to walk the way I walk, talk the way I talk, treat people the way I treat people, be who I am, really live out my life authentically, is because since I was a little child, I've always had this voice, quote unquote, guiding me in my head saying, come on, we going this way. It's okay. You're going to be all right. Come on. I got something for you. And every time I make it to a different, I've seen beautiful things in this world too. That's why I say it's the perfect storm. I won a Grammy. Like, I don't even talk about it, for real, honestly. Now, when I win this Nobel Peace Prize, I might wear it around my my neck like a chain.
Okay, you do that.
So I'm getting an honorary doctorate.
Okay.
On November 18th.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
Thank you. I told Shaki, I said, oh, be prepared. I said, I'm wearing the robe all day and the hat. Everywhere I go. I don't care if we go into Burger King. I'm wearing a hat.
And I will show you your respect. And I will call you Dr. Thi'sl, or do I call you Dr. Tyler?
Tabby, see, this is why I rock with you, Tabby.
Yes.
This is why I rock with you. But life has been beautiful. It's been pain. But it's like, man, when it all comes together, though, and makes sense,
yes,
it gives you enough in those moments to keep fighting.
Yes.
So that's my encouragement and my prayer to you. Since the moment that you have said, and this is real life transparency. You don't know how many days I have my days. Today, Shaki asked me, she said, what were you doing? Because I was running behind. And I was like, I was doing stuff. And she was like, what were you doing? And I didn't answer. So she probably like felt the way, you know, how it be. So she was like, got off the phone, right? But today I was having a day. Some days I have to make myself show up.
Yes.
I have to make myself be, you know? So I was having a day and I was like, okay, I'm going to Tammy. Super excited. I'm going to Tammy.
Thank you.
Pulling up. But you don't know how many days I have had a day and I go online and I go to Facebook and I see you and I hear you laughing. I see you talking. I know what you're going through. But not physically knowing or fully comprehending, but knowing you're going through something that most people, they quit. They give up, they throw in the towel, and they bow down and say, okay, this is it. You just started a podcast. You're steady thriving, you're steady going. So no matter how rough it feel or how much you're going through, sometimes pain pushes us to the place we're supposed to be. And I'm reading again, Think and Grow Rich. I started back over reading it again. And the chapter that I read today was talking about people quitting when they're one step away from gold. So keep stepping.
Thank you.
Keep going forward.
Thank you.
Keep putting it out like.
Thank you.
Like, this is amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you very much.
I get strength from you.
Thank you.
On a daily basis. And that's not for the podcast. That's real life.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Touch and agree.
Yes.
You have my support with your foundation and with whatever it is that you do. I admire you and I think you're wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that you shared with me today.
Thank you. Happy you had me.
Yeah, yes. Listen, I appreciate you all for listening, and for those of you all who are watching on YouTube, I thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you're here today. Special thanks to Missouri's trusted law firm. For more than 40 years, Brown Crouppen has provided trusted legal care for clients, and they were even voted the best law firm by the readers of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. If you need them, reach out to them at brownandcrouppen.com. Until next time. It's what I say all the time. Life is death without adventure, and adventure only comes to those who are daring and willing to take chances. Have a fantastic day. Thi'sl, thank you.